Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Space Activity Badge for the Beaver Scouts. I'd like to point out, just to start with, that this is a very interesting badge in that making a model applies to a whole bunch of different requirements for badges. Not just the Space Activity Badge, but also things such as the Builder Activity Badge, the Creative Activity Badge, and if you take photos of the sky, then it can also be the Photographer Activity Badge. Further to this, it actually can count towards the top award for Beaver Scouts, which is the Chief Scouts Bronze Award, because if you look at the My Skills Challenge Award, which is part of that, creating a model also counts towards the activity parts of this. So that's an interesting little bit of a premise there. So we'll just cover this off very easily. These four requirements here. Number one, point out some of the things you can see in the night sky. I'd like to advise you to get a little bit away from the hut if you can here and get out into the world a bit. Essentially, light pollution from towns and cities, while it may not be very obvious while you're inside of it, actually it blots out a huge amount of the stars you can see. You wouldn't believe the amount of stars and planets and things you can see, a little, even just a little bit away from town centres and things like that. I'd advise going somewhere perhaps a little bit above the ground, like a hill of some kind, high hill, that's some distance from things like street lights. It can really dampen out what you can see. If you're really going to go the extra mile, there are calendars online for meteor showers, and if you manage to line up a meteor shower with a beaver sort of night on space, that's going to be a scout experience they will never forget, I assure you. Moving on from this, number two, point out and name at least one constellation you can see. Orion's belt is a very, very easy one to identify, and it also applies to finding out where north is. You can look up the relation between Orion's belt and north, but there's a staged badge called the Navigator Badge, which stays with you all the way up to the age of 18 in Scouts. And one of the highest requirements for that badge is to know where north is, even at night time, without a compass. So learning to navigate by the stars, you can just start with very, very simple finding Orion's belt. And even as a beaver, that can send them in good stead, basically, for later in life. Number three, name 8 planets of our solar system. Obviously, Pluto's not involved there. Make and draw a model of one of the planets. Again, making this model accounts for a huge amount of things in beavers. Making models is applicable to at least 4 or 5 different things. So I'd advise, if you're using OSM or any other badge management system, to definitely add those up. I mentioned them earlier in this video, so feel free to go back to that. Use whatever you can. There's examples of things like salt dough. What you could do is, or papier-mâché, as it says here, what you could actually do is have some of the beavers make a single planet and then sort of split them into 8s, and then you can bring them all together at the end. That'd be quite nice. And finally, number 4, find out about a space mission, astronaut, or a planet in our solar system. Essentially, there's plenty of space missions happening, especially nowadays with things like SpaceX. If you talk a little bit about Neil Armstrong, that's a very good way of doing things, or even the various different British and Commonwealth astronauts that have been on the International Space Station. That's all for the Beaver Scouts requirements for this badge. Again, I would highly advise to do this badge, as it's one of those ones that can get you out into nature very easily, and it can also count for a huge amount of other badges, including parts of the Chief Scouts Bronze Award, which is obviously the pinnacle and the aim for anyone within Scouts as a beaver leader to try and get their Scouts towards. That's everything for now. Thank you.